Winter break in New Haven had started quietly, the streets glinting under frozen snow, and the distant hum of street lamps buzzing through the night. I had always hated being bored, so naturally, my nights were spent hunched over my laptop, scouring the dark corners of the internet for new games. Scary games. Anything that made my heart race and my palms sweat. That night, I stumbled upon a forum I'd never seen before, hidden between endless threads about indie horror titles. One post caught my eye. The bath ritual. Do you dare? At first I thought it was a joke. The screenshots were grainy, shaky like someone had filmed them with a cheap phone, and the description was barely English. But something about the way it promised an experience you will never forget made my stomach tighten. The post warned, "Do not leave the game unfinished. Daruma-san will come for you if you try forever." I laughed. Of course I laughed. But a small, stubborn corner of my brain whispered that I shouldn't. By the time my parents fell asleep, I had everything ready. I locked my bedroom door, pulled the blinds tight, and unplugged the Christmas lights. My laptop screen glowed in the dark, illuminating the pale walls of my room. I even tied a scarf over my eyes, like the game instructions demanded. Step 1. Fill the bathtub. Recite the strange chant repeatedly, and wash your hair while blindfolded. I started, my voice shaking as the words left my lips, feeling ridiculous. The warm water lapped over my scalp. At first, nothing happened. I almost laughed again, about to peek through my blindfold, when I heard it. A soft footstep, then another, echoing in the bathroom. I froze. My heart hammered. There was no one else home. Then I saw her. A woman, pale and dripping, in tattered white clothes, her face twisted into something not quite human. My right eye felt as if it was being ripped from its socket, a searing pain that made me scream. Blood mixed with bathwater. I wanted to open my eyes, to run, to scream for my parents, but the game rules flashed through my mind. Do not leave unfinished. Trembling, I whispered, "Why, are you here?" The spirit cackled, a sound that chilled my bones. And then, just as suddenly, she was gone. I opened my eyes. Alone, but not safe. Not even close. The rest of the night, I barely slept. Every shadow seemed to move. Every creak of the house felt like her footsteps. By morning, I was exhausted, but had no choice. Life went on. Breakfast, school, friends, the world outside my terror. But as I left for the supermarket later that day, I felt it again, the awareness of being followed. I turned, but the parking lot was empty. My pulse raced. Then I saw her, reflected in the glass doors. That same ragged woman, her single hollow eyes staring at me. I blinked. Gone. I didn't know it then, but the game had begun. And Daruma-san wouldn't stop until I either completed the ritual, or she claimed me. The day after the first encounter, I tried to convince myself I was imagining things. Snow glistened on the streets of New Haven. Kids' laughter echoing faintly in the distance, the scent of pine from Christmas trees lingering in the cold air. Everything should have felt normal. It didn't. Even walking down the aisles of the supermarket with my mom, I felt eyes on me. Not the casual glance of strangers, but something heavy, waiting. My stomach twisted. I kept looking over my shoulder. No one, just a shelf stacked with cereal boxes. And then I saw her again, that same white-clad figure, only this time, her hollow eye glinted like black ice, and the way she stood motionless made every muscle in my body scream. My mom was oblivious, chatting with the cashier. Unaware of the nightmare lurking a few feet away, I turned to blink, to make her vanish, and she was gone. But the dread didn't leave. I raced home, trying to tell myself I could ignore it. Maybe it was the stress of the game. Maybe I had overreacted. But the house was wrong. The bathtub empty, just as it should be, still smelled faintly of soap and something metallic, and I could hear it. Faint soft giggles echoing off the tiles, as if someone or something was playing a twisted game with me. The next hours were a blur. I didn't eat much, I didn't touch my phone. Every shadow, every creak of the house felt alive. The warmth of my room felt like a trap. By nightfall, I had made a decision. I couldn't ignore the rules of the game. I had to continue. Step 2 demanded more than blindfolded hair washing. This time, the instructions were chillingly precise. Stand in the bathroom, face the mirror. Recite the chant 3 times while touching your reflection. Never remove the blindfold until the ritual is complete. If you hesitate, she will come for you. My fingers trembled as I placed the scarf over my eyes. I approached the bathroom mirror. The cold tiles beneath my feet seemed to suck the warmth from my body. My hands shook as I reached for the glass, feeling nothing at first. And then, a chill ran through me. Something pressed against my palm, not glass. Something cold, wet. A voice whispered, soft but jagged. "You cannot hide, Emily," I screamed. My voice echoed. My heart pounded. I didn't move. I couldn't. Then I felt her breath on my neck. The smell rotting wet, iron-heavy made bile rise in my throat. My knees buckled, and I fell to the cold tile floor. Step 3, I muttered to myself, clutching the edge of the sink. Step 3, I have to finish. Through sheer will, I repeated the chant. My hands pressed harder against the mirror. And for a moment, just a moment, the bathroom was still. No giggles, no footsteps. Only the quiet splash of water dripping from the faucet. I dared to open my eyes. Nothing. But then, behind me, reflected in the mirror, I saw her Daruma-san. Her hollow eye staring straight through mine, the other socket an empty, bleeding hole, and her mouth twisted in a grin that promised I would never sleep again. I bolted. I ran from the bathroom, down the hall, my feet slipping on the hardwood. My mom's room door slammed open. She yelled, asking if I was okay. I couldn't answer. I just ran to my bedroom, slammed the door, and locked it tight. But I knew she hadn't left. The whispers followed me through the house, the creaks of footsteps behind every door. I could feel her in my room without her being there. And I understood the game now. It wasn't just about completing the steps. It was about surviving them. The night stretched endlessly. Every sound, every flicker of shadow made me freeze in terror. My laptop lay on the desk, still logged into the game forum. The post was still there, mocking me. "Do not leave unfinished. She will come." And I knew, with a cold certainty, that she had. The next morning, I woke to an almost unbearable silence. Sunlight filtered weakly through my blinds, but it didn't bring warmth or comfort. My room felt heavier, as if the shadows themselves had weight. I didn't tell my mom about last night, not yet. How could I explain it? She would think I was losing it, that I'd gone too deep into some stupid online horror game. But the truth was, I couldn't hide what was happening anymore. Daruma had followed me out of the bathroom, out of my house, and into my life. At school, it started subtly. I thought I caught glimpses of her lay ragged, standing at the end of the hallway. Just a flicker in my peripheral vision. Every time I turned my head, nothing. Just lockers, students rushing to class. My heart pounded so hard, I thought it would give me away by lunch. I realized it wasn't a hallucination. The cafeteria was crowded, noisy, and warm. But there she was again, leaning against a wall, watching me. Her one hollow eye glinting under the fluorescent lights. My stomach churned. I wanted to run, to scream, to disappear into the crowded room. But the rules of the game echoed in my mind. Do not leave unfinished. I tried to focus on my friends, but my voice sounded thin, distant, like it didn't belong to me. The whispers started soft, almost imperceptible, threading through the clatter of trays and chatter of students. You cannot escape. You cannot hide. I bolted from the cafeteria. I didn't care who saw me. I ran through the hallways, heart hammering, praying for an empty bathroom, a safe place to finish the next ritual step. The bathroom was empty, cold tiles, harsh fluorescent light buzzing overhead. I stepped in, shutting the door behind me. Step 4. You must face the truth of your fear. Look into her eye, speak her name, and do not flinch. I didn't want to, but I had no choice. I stared into the mirror, shaking, and there she was. Daruma-san, closer than before, her hollow eye fixed on mine, her smile spreading impossibly wide. I whispered her name, my voice trembling. Daruma-san. The lights flickered, the bathroom door rattled, and then silence. I thought it was over, but when I turned around, she was standing behind me. Not reflected in the mirror this time. Real, solid. Her breath smelled of rust and decay, and she reached for me with hands that were impossibly long and thin. I screamed, backing up into the bathtub. My legs slipped, water splashing onto the floor. I hit my head on the edge of the tub, and everything went black. When I woke, I was lying on my bedroom floor, wet and shivering. The clock read 12:03 a.m. A voice, faint and playful, whispered from the darkness, "You cannot leave the game." I didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house, every shadow, every whisper reminded me that she was there, watching, waiting. The next day, at school, I tried to act normal, but things weren't normal anymore. On the way to class, I passed my locker and froze. Written in dripping dark letters was a single phrase. "I see you, Emily." No one else was around. No one had seen it appear. My hands trembled as I opened the locker. Nothing inside had moved, nothing spilled, nothing unusual except the message. I realized, with a sinking icy dread, that the game wasn't just online. The ritual wasn't just in my bathroom. Daruma-san could follow me anywhere, and worse, she was learning. Every day, every step I took, every word I said. She seemed closer, smarter, hungrier. The game had started with me alone in my room. Now it was turning my life into a nightmare I couldn't escape. By evening, I knew what had to happen. I had to continue the rituals. I had no choice. Step 5. Invite her in fully, confront the darkness, and survive the bath without breaking eye contact. I didn't want to, but if I didn't, she would come for me anyway. And that night, as I filled the bathtub with cold water and tied the blindfold around my eyes, I whispered a desperate prayer. "Please, let me survive tonight." That night, sleep was impossible. Every shadow in my room stretched longer, darker, alive. Every creak, every groan of the old house sounded like her footsteps. Daruma-san wasn't just in my bathroom anymore. She was everywhere, waiting, watching. I knew I had to continue the ritual. Step 6. Do not close your eyes. Do not turn away. Let her reach for you and survive. I filled the bathtub, icy, water running over my hands as my heart raced. I tied the blindfold over my eyes, feeling the damp fabric cling to my skin. The room seemed to shrink, the air thickening around me like syrup. And then, I felt it. A hand cold, wet, impossibly strong grasped my ankle. My scream caught in my throat. I thrashed, but I couldn't escape. "Do you want to finish the game, Emily?" A voice hissed, closer than it should have been. I swallowed my fear, reciting the chant. My words trembled, but I didn't stop. The water sloshed around me as her hands moved higher, gripping my shoulders, my arms. I could feel her breath on my neck, rancid and heavy. I forced myself to keep chanting. I could hear her laughter, soft, cruel, and echoing in my skull. Then, silence. I opened my eyes. She was gone, but I wasn't safe. The next morning, walking to school, I realized the game wasn't staying contained to my home. Shadows followed me down streets, flickering in the corner of my vision. I could feel her presence behind every car, every tree, every alley I passed. At school, it got worse. Lockers slammed shut on their own. The intercom buzzed with static, then a faint whisper, "Emily." My friends looked around, confused, but they didn't see her. Only I did. By lunch, I had no choice but to confront it. I cornered myself in the bathroom, closing the stall door behind me. Step 7. Call her name 3 times and do not flinch. Let the fear in, but do not give her control, I whispered. Barely audible. Daruma-san. 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 The stall grew icy, the lights flickered, and then the mirror shattered. Pieces of glass flew at me, slicing my arm. I stumbled backward, screaming. And there she was, fully visible this time, her ragged white clothes wet, her hollow eye glinting, mouth stretched into a smile that wasn't human. She lunged, and I slammed into the wall. Pain seared through me, but I didn't stop chanting. I didn't move my eyes. I couldn't. Then, as suddenly as she appeared, she vanished. But the damage was done. My arm bled, my mind shook, and I understood the truth. She could reach me anywhere. The game had escaped the bathroom. She was in the world now, and she wouldn't leave until I finished. That night, I tried to sleep, but every noise, every shadow, every flicker of light became her. I saw her standing in my doorway, reflected in the darkened window. I blinked. Gone. But I knew she was there. Step 8 loomed in my mind. You must complete the final bath. Water and blood mix, fear and courage collide, and the ritual will endure. You will not survive. I didn't know if I was strong enough. I didn't know if I wanted to survive. But the alternative, Daruma-san hunting me forever, was worse. And so, with trembling hands, I filled the bathtub again, tying the blindfold tight. This time, I could hear her whispering outside my room, laughing and pacing. Waiting. I realized I had crossed a line. The game wasn't just a game anymore. It had become reality, and reality had become hell. I thought I could keep the game contained in my house. I was wrong. Even with the blindfold tied tight and the bathtub filled, I began noticing her presence everywhere. Shadows stretched unnaturally in the hallways. Streetlights flickered when I walked alone at night. Every time I blinked, I could see a white figure in the corner of my vision. The worst was at school. I tried to hide in the library, surrounded by shelves of books. I told myself, she won't follow me here. Public places are safe. I was. WRONG? I turned a corner between the stacks and froze. There she was, staring at me from the end of the aisle. Her ragged white dress dripping with water that looked impossibly real. Her one hollow eye piercing straight through me. My breath caught in my chest. I blinked. Gone. But the fear didn't leave. It followed me like a shadow that could touch me. By afternoon, it was worse. I went to the parking lot to wait for my mom, but the empty lot felt like a trap. Every car cast a shadow that moved slightly when I wasn't looking. The wind whispered my name. And then I saw her, Daruma-san, standing between the rows of cars, smiling in a way that made my blood run cold. I ran. I didn't care where I went, only that I put distance between us. I darted across the street, people yelling at me to slow down, but I didn't stop. Her laughter echoed behind me, distant but growing, surrounding me. Home. I locked myself in my room again, trembling and soaked from the cold evening air. My hands shook as I tied the blindfold for the next ritual step. Step 9. The final bath approaches. Blood will mix with water. Fear must be faced fully, or she will claim you. I didn't want to. I filled the bathtub, icy water filling the porcelain with a sinister glint. I tied the blindfold over my eyes and stepped in. I felt her before I heard her. Cold hands on my shoulders, fingers brushing my arms. I choked back a scream. "Are you ready, Emily?" she whispered, her voice like scraping metal. I recited the chant. My voice was shaky, barely audible, but I forced myself to continue. Her grip tightened, moving over my arms, shoulders, and back. I couldn't see her, but I could feel her fully, every inch of her presence, pressing into me. The air grew heavier, the water felt warmer, though I knew it wasn't. A shadow moved inside the bathtub, slithering like smoke. She laughed. I screamed, almost breaking, but I remembered the rules. Do not stop. Do not turn away. Finish the ritual. Minutes, or was it hours, passed. My muscles ached, my voice cracked, and then, silence. I dared to open my eyes. The bathtub was empty. The water was calm. The shadows were gone. I thought I had survived, but when I looked at the mirror, reflected behind me was not just me. She stood there, closer than ever, and for the first time, I saw her face fully. Hollow eye, missing eye socket, bloodied, twisted grin, and she raised a hand, pointing at me. You're mine if you leave unfinished, the voice hissed. I stumbled, backward, heart hammering. That was when I realized, surviving the ritual didn't mean escaping. The game wasn't over. She had learned my patterns, my fears, and she could appear anywhere, at any time. That night, I slept fitfully, nightmares haunting every second of rest. I dreamt she was in the bathtub, dragging me under the water, laughing as I struggled. I woke up soaked in sweat, hearing faint splashes in the bathroom. I didn't dare look. I knew one thing with terrifying clarity. I had to finish the final step, no matter what it cost. And I knew that step would be worse than anything I had faced so far. That night, I knew I couldn't avoid her any longer. Daruma-san wasn't just haunting me, she was controlling the spaces I lived in, the air I breathed. Every room, every shadow, every flicker of light became her territory. Step 10. Face her fully. No blindfold, no fear. Complete the ritual, or be claimed. My hands shook as I prepared the bathtub one final time. I didn't tie the blindfold. I had to see her. I had to look into her hollow eye and survive. I poured cold water into the tub, icy against my trembling fingers. I recited the chant once more, louder this time, letting the words fill the room like a spell. Then I felt her presence before I saw her. A shadow moved in the corner. A whisper grazed my ear. Emily, you cannot escape. I turned slowly, and there she was. Daruma-san, closer than ever. Her ragged white dress soaked and clinging to her body, her single eye glowing black, the other socket a bloody abyss. Her mouth stretched in a grin that shouldn't exist on any human face. Her hands reached for me. I didn't flinch. I stepped into the tub, letting the icy water cover my legs. My body shook, but I stared at her, repeating the chant over and over. My voice cracked, echoing in the bathroom, refusing to stop. She moved closer, her laughter scraping the air, her hands brushing against my arms. My skin prickled with cold and terror, but I held my ground. Finish it, I whispered to myself. Finish it, Emily. The water rose. Her hands sank into it, but I didn't look away. The mirror fogged, then shattered into sharp pieces, floating impossibly in midair. She screamed, a horrible high-pitched wail, and I could feel her fury pressing into my chest. I clenched my fists, repeating the final words of the ritual. And then, for the first time, I saw her form flickering, unstable, like smoke in the wind. She screamed, louder, louder, until the sound tore through the walls, the floor, the ceiling, and then, silence. The bathroom was empty. The water was calm. The shattered mirror pieces fell to the floor. I was alone. For a moment, I thought it was over. But then, a drip from the faucet. One drop of water hit the tub, and I swore I heard a whisper, "I'll be back." I collapsed, shivering, tears streaming down my face. I had survived. I had completed the ritual. But I knew, deep down, that surviving Daruma-san wasn't the same as being free. She had learned my fear. She had entered my life. And even though the ritual was over, the game had changed me. The next morning, my house seemed normal again. Sunlight poured in through the windows. My mom called me for breakfast, unaware of the nightmare I had endured. I wanted to tell her. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just nodded, trying to act normal, because I knew that if I let my fear show, she might come back. The morning after the final ritual, the sunlight streaming through my bedroom window felt almost unreal. For a brief, fleeting moment, I thought maybe it had ended. Maybe I was free. But the moment I got out of bed, I knew the shadows in my room were wrong. They didn't match the shape of my furniture. They stretched too far, curling toward me like black smoke. Every flicker of light seemed to twist into a figure, watching, waiting. I tried to convince myself it was my imagination. It was just the fear lingering, just a dream. But when I walked down the hallway, the walls groaned like they were alive, and I heard it soft, faint, almost melodic. Emily. I froze. No one was there. My parents were asleep. The house was empty. Yet, I could feel her. Daruma-san. Somehow, even after completing the ritual, she had left pieces of herself behind. School wasn't any safer. In class, the hum of fluorescent lights made me shiver. My friends whispered, unaware of the creeping terror that followed me. Every reflection window glass, a shiny laptop screen, even the surface of a water fountain held the faint outline of her. One hollow eye staring back at me, grinning. I tried to act normal. I laughed. I talked. I took notes. But the whispers never stopped. Soft, scraping, taunting. You can't leave unfinished. You will never leave. At home, it got worse. Doors I knew were closed opened slowly on their own. Footsteps echoed in empty rooms. Mirrors fogged up. And when I wiped them, her message appeared. I'm still here. Sleep became impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I dreamt she was in the bathtub, dragging me under, laughing as I struggled. I woke drenched in sweat, water dripping from my hair, my heart pounding like it would break through my ribs. I realized something terrifying. Completing the ritual didn't destroy her. It didn't banish Daruma-san. It only tethered her. She had become part of my world, and now she haunted me, waiting for the right moment to strike again. Desperate, I tried to ignore her. I kept my blindfolds, my chants, even avoided mirrors. But no matter what I did, she was there, watching, learning, smiling. And then I started hearing the others' voices on the internet forums, posts from people who had found the game before me. Some laughed it off, some disappeared. One or two begged for help, claiming the spirit followed them into reality. Their stories were fragmented, half ranting, half pleas. I wasn't alone. Others had suffered the same nightmare, but that didn't make it any less terrifying. The whispers grew louder that night, coming from corners I had never noticed before. Under my bed, inside my closet, behind the bathroom door. And then I saw her again, fully, in the reflection of my bedroom window. She stood outside, smiling, one hollow eye glinting in the moonlight. She waved slowly. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream. I wanted to forget the game had ever existed. But I knew she would follow me anywhere. Daruma-san had won. In a way, by now, I couldn't tell where the game ended and my real life began. Daruma-san had learned to strike anywhere, anytime, I thought. Staying home might keep me safe. I was wrong. The next morning, my mom asked me to go to the grocery store with her. Normally, a mundane errand. Now, it felt like walking into a trap. As soon as we parked, I froze. Across the lot, standing between two cars, she was there. Daruma-san, her white dress wet, torn, her hollow eye fixed on me. She didn't move at first, just watched, like a predator studying prey. I wanted to scream, but my mom was right there. I couldn't. Every step I took toward the store, I felt her presence behind me. Every reflection in car windows, every shadow under a street lampshade was there, watching, waiting. Inside, I tried to act normal. I followed my mom down the aisles, gripping the shopping cart as if it could shield me. But she was always just at the edge of my vision. A flicker in the corner, a shadow that moved when I blinked, and then I saw her clearly by the bakery section. She stood staring at me, one hollow eye wide, the empty socket bloody, her twisted smile splitting her face. I froze. My hands clenched the cart. My mom walked on, oblivious. She moved closer. My heart raced. I could feel her fingers grazing my arm, though when I turned, no one was there. The whispers started again, low, cruel, playful. You cannot leave. You will always be mine. I ran down the aisles, past startled shoppers. I tripped over a display of cans, sending them crashing to the floor. My mom called my name, panic rising in her voice. But I didn't stop. I burst through the automatic doors into the parking lot. Daruma-san wasn't there. I looked around frantically. Cars, trees, empty space, nothing. Then I saw her reflected in the side view mirror of my mom's car. She was standing on the curb, smiling at me, slowly raising her hand to wave. I screamed and ran toward the car, slamming the door. My mom looked at me, eyes wide, confused and alarmed. "Emily, what's wrong?" she asked. I don't know, I stammered. She's here. She's outside." My mom shook her head. "Emily, there's no one here. It's okay. Let's just get home." But I knew she was out there, waiting. The game wasn't over. It never would be. By the time we got home, night had fallen. I could hear the wind whispering, echoing like her voice. Emily. The final step of the game loomed in my mind. Step 11. You must choose. Face her fully, end the game, or accept that she will follow you forever. I had no choice. I had survived every step, but now the choice was mine. Face her fully, and end this, or run and be haunted forever. By now, fear had become a constant companion. Every shadow, every whisper, every reflection reminded me that Daruma-san was still out there, waiting. She wasn't just a game anymore. She was real. And she had claimed a piece of my life. I couldn't run. I couldn't hide. And I couldn't leave the game unfinished. I spent the next few days preparing. I reread the rules carefully, memorizing each step. I gathered candles, mirrors, and a journal to record everything. I filled the bathtub, icy water running over, my trembling fingers, readying myself for the final ritual. Step 12. Face her fully in the mirror. Let her see your fear, and speak the words that bind her to the end of the game. Only courage can finish what you started. The night was dark, the air thick with tension. Every creak of the house, every gust of wind outside, made me jump. I tied the blindfold around my eyes for a moment, just to steady myself. When I removed it, I stared directly into the mirror. Her reflection appeared immediately. Daruma-san, ragged and wet, hollow eyes staring into mine, her grin wider than ever. Blood streaked across her pale face, the missing eye socket dark and gaping. "Emily," she whispered, voice scraping like metal. "You cannot escape me." I clenched my fists, reciting the words I had memorized. "I see you. I face you. You have no power over me except what I give you." Her laughter filled the room, echoing off the walls, rattling the window panes. She lunged forward, but her body wavered, flickering like smoke in the mirror. I forced myself to keep my gaze steady, repeating the chant louder, my voice trembling but growing stronger with each word. The lights flickered, water splashed, and I felt the temperature drop. Her presence pressed down on me, heavy and cold, but I didn't look away. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. My body shook, my voice cracked, my heart felt like it would burst. And then, slowly, her form began to dissolve in the mirror, twisting, fading, until nothing remained. Silence. I collapsed onto the bathroom floor, shivering, my chest heaving. The water was still. The shadows had gone. The whispers were gone. For the first time in weeks, I felt free, but the lingering unease remained. I knew the game had left its mark on me. I would never be the same. And somewhere, deep down, I wondered, had I truly defeated Daruma-san, or had I only delayed her return? The sun rose the next morning, warm and ordinary, but I didn't feel its comfort. The world seemed too quiet, too still, as if holding its breath. I had survived the final confrontation with Daruma-san, but the echoes of her presence clung to me like a shadow I could never shake. I went through my day trying to act normal. I ate breakfast, got dressed for school, and even managed a joke with my mom. But every reflection glass doors, chrome appliances, even a shiny soda can made my stomach twist. For a split second, I saw her hollow eye, her bloody grin. Sleep didn't come easy that night. Every sound, floorboards creaking, wind tapping against the window. The distant hum of cars made my heart pound. I would check my mirrors, my bathtub, every corner of my room, half expecting her to appear, but nothing came. Days passed, weeks passed. Life slowly returned to a fragile sense of normalcy. I started hanging out with friends again, laughing at silly jokes, walking to school without constantly glancing over my shoulder. Yet, in quiet moments, I could still hear Ida whisper, just at the edge of hearing, barely audible, "Emily." I realized that Daruma-san hadn't left completely. She had been weakened, confined, maybe even bound by the final ritual, but she remained, a lingering presence, waiting for a crack in my courage. I tried to tell myself I was imagining it, that my fear had transformed into paranoia. But one evening, while brushing my teeth, I looked into the mirror and froze. There she was, just for a moment, a flicker in the corner of the glass. Hollow eye, ragged smile, blood-streaked face. I blinked. Gone. I swallowed hard, gripping the sink. The game wasn't over. It never truly ends. It waits. It watches. And it feeds on fear. I locked the bathroom door, tied my blindfold tight, and whispered the chant silently to myself, just in case. Safety was temporary. Courage was fragile. But I would survive. I had to, because I knew one terrifying truth. Some games don't end. They linger. And once they touch your world, they never truly let go. I went to bed that night, shivering, exhausted, but alive. The shadows seemed quieter. The air felt lighter, for now, but as I drifted toward sleep, I could have sworn I heard it. The faint, slow drip of water, and the softest whisper of all, "I'll see you again, Emily." And somewhere, in the corners of the dark, I knew she meant it.